It is much easier to have direct contact with an extraterrestrial than most people think. And those interactions are probably going to look a lot different than our preconceived notions. For example, having an extraterrestrial come into your body and take control over it. That's the story I'm about to tell that I never thought I would share publicly. What's up? I'm Ian with Alternate Timelines. I've had extraterrestrial contact many different times, in many different places and different contexts. And the story I'm about to share with you today is one that really sticks out in my mind as being pretty remarkable and had a deep impact on me personally. It completely blew my mind and gave me an entirely different perspective on consciousness, extraterrestrials, and life in general. I had no idea just how intimate an experience with an ET could be. You're going to want to stick around for this story, because at the end, there is a plot twist that takes this really strange story to a whole nother level of weird. This experience actually takes place over the course of several months and includes several interactions with the same ET. So to set the stage, I've got a friend, let's say a friend of a friend, who's got some undeveloped land out in Southern California near the Anza Borrego Desert. This plot of land is a really remarkable place, super special. It's out in the middle of nowhere, not close to people, not close to technology or civilization. And the land itself is full of quartz crystals. You walk around and the place is just covered. You can see veins of quartz running diagonally across the ground. It's a really magical, high-energy spot. And my guess is that it has been for a long time, because out there you can find shards of pottery and signs of ancient civilizations. My strong intuition is that the indigenous people knew about that spot and inhabited it for a long time. I feel really blessed to have been able to go out there, spend time on the land, and experience that place for myself. Myself and a group of friends, it was always different people. There's usually 6 or 8 of us, would meet up out there once every couple of months to do plant medicine journeys. It wasn't a super formal sort of situation. People would come on their own and do their own thing, spend the night out under the stars, camping by themselves, having their experiences with mushrooms or whatever they had. And then in the morning, we would have a community potluck breakfast, talk about our experiences, sit around the fire until the sun got high in the sky and it became blazing hot, and then we would all go our separate ways. I met some really interesting characters out there, and I, by no means, was the only person to have extraterrestrial contact in that space. One of the first times I was there, I was walking around exploring, and I found a beautiful spot on top of this hill that I knew was going to be the place where I was going to have my journeys. That is exactly where I would set up my tent, my little one-person camping tent, and my sleeping bag every time I went out there. It was secluded, away from everybody else, so that I could just do my thing and have my experience. So the first time that I encountered this extraterrestrial, I was out there, I was in my tent, I had eaten 5-ish grams of mushrooms. I was buckled myself in and I was getting ready to go for a ride. Shortly after I started to feel the effects of the mushrooms, I had a very strong feeling that I was not alone, that I was being watched. And I just settled into the experience and kind of reached out energetically, and I could feel that there was an entity, there was a presence there. It was coming from the direction of the mountain. When I realized that there was a being there, I just introduced myself and acknowledged it. I said, hey, I mean you no harm. I come in peace and love and openness. I'm here for just the night, for a short period of time, to have an inward sort of journey of self-exploration. I don't mean to impose. I don't mean to interrupt your space or what you're doing. And I come in love. And I want to clarify that this communication happened telepathically. I wasn't speaking these words. It was a direct consciousness to consciousness sort of interaction. He was close enough and had a willingness to connect with me in that way. And we were able to exchange information and communicate in that way. He responded to my communication, letting me know that he also meant me no harm and he was just coming to check out what was going on because it was sort of unusual, actually very unusual, for people to be coming out and spending time alone in this part of the world. It was a very secluded space. And I acknowledged that, and we spent a little bit of time in each other's energy, just feeling each other out. And then he basically bowed out and faded off into the distance, and he was gone. And I say he because the energy and the sense that I got was that it was a young masculine energy. But beyond that, there wasn't really any visual or anything that was particularly distinguishing about him or this experience. He didn't get very close, didn't share much information, just got close enough to let me know that he was there and to have that brief interaction, and then it was gone, and that was over. This happened at the very beginning part of this journey, and honestly, I don't remember a lot of what happened after that as far as the journey went, but that interaction that I had with that being was definitely very succinct, and it felt meaningful. It was like whenever you have the opportunity to connect with an extraterrestrial or a being like that, it's very, to me, is very special. And we don't have a lot of those interactions typically. Some people do, and it's not difficult to, but you have to put yourself in the right place, in the right state of being, and be open to it, which I think a lot of people aren't. And so these experiences are rather infrequent, and for myself included. Fast forward 3 or 4 months, and I find myself on the exact same hill, in the exact same place, doing the exact same thing. And wouldn't you know it, guess who I ran into again? You guessed it. Only this time, the experience was a lot different. Shortly after this mushroom journey really kicked off, I again got a sense of a being coming from the direction of the mountains, and I recognized the energy immediately. It was the same entity, an extraterrestrial, that I'd contacted and interacted with just a few months prior. But this time, he came closer, and I got the sense that he wanted to have a more meaningful interaction. So we started talking, and again, I say talking, but this was telepathic communication. We start communicating, and this is really hard to explain for somebody who hasn't experienced it, because it's just so different from our normal way of communicating. The experience that I had with this being, it wasn't like an exchange of information exactly. It was like our consciousness overlapped. I was able to access parts of his emotion, parts of his memory, and I was able to very quickly get a much better sense of who this entity was. This extraterrestrial introduced himself as Atom, like Atom. And being able to tap into his emotions and his feelings and some surface level memories, again, this situation, it's not like I was able to go deep to the core of his memories and know everything about him. It's more like small talk, so to speak, or surface level emotions and memories. In that kind of a state, you do have control to a certain degree to how much information you share, for the most part. There's some things that are just obvious and out in the open, but I think really deep core stuff, you can, to a certain degree, keep that to yourself. And really, we all have trauma, we all have things that we've gone through. I didn't want to probe the depths of his being to learn everything about him. That's intrusive. I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. I already have my own things to deal with. Why would I want to delve into somebody else's issues, deep personal issues? In my experience, this has been kind of a common thing. I don't never feel like when I've interacted with beings telepathically or spiritually like this, like they're probing really deeply into the depths of my soul. There's a degree of respecting each other's space and acknowledging that there are certain parts of yourself that you want to keep private. And sure, I'm guessing that if he wanted to, he could have learned every little bit about every little thing that I've done based on the fact that he could access my consciousness in that way. But that was never the feeling, and I never wanted to do that to him, and it just seemed like we were on the same page as far as our interaction and the information that we communicated, that it was irrelevant to what we were doing and just more curious and wanting to get to know each other. If you're on a first or second date with somebody, you don't go asking them about their deepest, darkest traumas and the experiences they had, their first memories that, caused them to be the way that they are. I mean, you can, but that's usually not how it goes. And that's not how this went. So his name was Atom, and he came to Earth from a different planet. I didn't get his full backstory, but it was clear and apparent that there were feelings and emotions of sadness and guilt and hurt. It wasn't overwhelming, but there was definitely a sense of homesickness and feeling ostracized. I don't know exactly what happened, but the sense that I got was that he had been shunned or excommunicated, or something went down to where he had to leave his place of origin and his friends and his family to go into hiding or being secluded. Again, I don't know exactly what happened, but he was here not necessarily under his own free will. Like, there was a sense that if he could, he would have gone back, and he missed his home and his family and the beings that were close to him, but that he needed to be away from them at least for a period of time. And for me, I really resonated with those feelings and empathized with him, because I've been in certain situations where sometimes the energy and the things going on at home don't really vibe with me. So, I mean, there have been periods of my life, 3 years at a time, where I've just been absent from home for whatever reason. And that was something that I don't know that we necessarily bonded on, but we had a sense of camaraderie around that, because we both had similar sorts of feelings when it come to home and family. And when it came down to the physicality of Atom, he was not embodied. He was a spirit, but he was not in a physical body. If what we're at right now, this level, this dimension of reality, is 3D, I would consider him like 3.5D. You could sense him, like it was easy to sense him. He wasn't super ethereal or way far away or like an angel or ascended master or a really high vibrational being. The sense that I got was that you could maybe even recognize his energy with the naked eye, and that it would be something like when you look over asphalt and see the heat waves coming off the asphalt, those waves, like you can't see the waves themselves, but you can see the effect of the waves and that distortion of the air, and it's like a visual distortion. My sense is that if you would to look at him in full light, that you would see something like that. You wouldn't see a physical body because he didn't have a physical body, but you would see some sort of energetic emanation or some sort of representation of his energy in physical space, even though he wasn't necessarily fully embodied. He was relatively close to our Earth vibration, yet not quite here. And ultimately, the basis for our fledgling relationship and ability to communicate with each other came down to a sense of openness and love and compassion and curiosity. We just wanted to get to know each other, and we were both curious about each other's experience and about the being that was there. During either of our interactions, I never got a feeling of manipulation or exploitativeness or him trying to extract something. In these kind of consciousness to consciousness sorts of communications where telepathy is involved, these things become apparent. It's not easily hidden. You can feel what the other being is thinking and the emotions that they're going through. In my experience, you might not know what they're thinking or exactly what their thought processes are, but there is a level of everything's out on the table, and a level of openness where you're kind of sharing the space and your ideas and your emotions as well. So it's really challenging to hide something that you're trying to do overtly. It's the kind of space where you really can't keep secrets, and especially not if you're trying to do something or interact with somebody or impose something on someone. It becomes very obvious. So there we were. Atom and I were basically getting to know each other. It was pretty cool. I was able to see visions of his home world, of the planet that he came from. It was very rocky and mountainous, and it didn't look like the images that I was able to perceive. It didn't look like a lot of plant material. And it was really interesting. And that was about the only sort of visual, or other than the direct communication, that was pretty it. It felt very cordial and friendly and curious, but also there was a sense of guardedness. Like he didn't want me to know everything that had happened and his whole past story, which, again, I totally get it. Then things took a turn. Adam started to communicate about the fact that he was not embodied and he'd never been in a body. It was very fascinating to him. I could feel his curiosity around the physicality of my meat suit, my human body. And he asked me if it would be all right for him to take control over my body. That request was totally unexpected, and I had to really sit with it for a moment. Like, what is he asking? He wants to take control over my body. To a certain degree, I get it. I understand that the body is basically just a vehicle, but I never considered the idea of allowing somebody else or another being to take control or to drive my vehicle. I could feel his emotions. I could feel where he was coming from. It was from a place of genuine curiosity and wonder about, what is this experience like? He just wanted to know. And the interaction up to this point was going very well. It was very pleasant. So I sat with it for a little bit and I was like, well, he's coming from a good place. Like, why not? Of all the things, like there was no reason for me not to. And I was curious myself. I could feel his curiosity, and that piqued a curiosity within me. I was like, sure, we can do this. If you're able to bring your consciousness into this body and take control over it for a period of time, I'm okay with that. And what I communicated back with him was the fact that this body is very important to me. The fact that he didn't have a body, I could tell he didn't quite grasp my sense of connection with the body and how kind of protective I was initially over the thought of him taking over my body. To him, it was like getting in and out of a car, but to me, obviously, it was different. I had to explain to him that this body is very important. I take care of it. It's without this body, I know my spirit would continue, but this body is important to me. If we go through with this and I let you take control of it, please be respectful and careful with it, and treat it with dignity, and just don't harm it, please. Don't crash the car. I really value this thing, is basically what I told him. And the response that I got was one of understanding. Like, okay, yes, I agree. I get what you're saying. I get where you're coming from. If you're open to it, cool, let's do this. So at this point, I was laying in my one-person tent, in my sleeping bag, having this interaction with Atom, and we agreed to do the thing. So I just basically allowed my whole body to relax. I started from the top of my head and worked my way down to my toes, just relaxing all the muscles in my body and really relaxing my mind as well, and just settling in and feeling into my body and just relaxing and getting in a state of acceptance and allowance. And it was so bizarre. I felt his spirit come into my body. And I'm laying there, and my shoulders and my head were propped up, and my neck. I wasn't laying flat. I was on a bit of an incline with my neck and my back. And I feel him enter my body. And the next thing that happens is my head turns one direction all the way as far as I could. My head turns the other direction as far as I could. I take a couple of really deep inhalations and deep breaths, full exhales, full inhales. And then my hand comes up in front of my face and my fingers start to, not exactly making a fist, but I'm pressing my fingers into one another. And I can just feel this sense of awe and wonder and like, oh my gosh, that is what pressure feels like. Oh my goodness, just a completely new, mind-blowing, like consciousness expanding sort of experience. I wasn't having it myself, but I was so close to it, I could feel it viscerally. Just this intense sense of wonder. It's like childlike curiosity. Like, oh my gosh, this is wild. I can feel the movement of this body and the pressure and the density of it. And it was almost like, I'm sure everybody's seen those cars that people use when they're in driver's ed. There's the kid who's going through driver's ed class and they're learning to drive a car. They're sitting in the driver's seat. But there are certain cars that are made for that purpose specifically, where in the passenger seat there's pedals and there's things that the passenger can do to control the car. And I felt like I was in the passenger seat of my own vehicle. A point of view that I was very unaccustomed to put it lightly. But it didn't feel dangerous. It didn't feel like I was in any sort of compromised position. It was just different. And I had a feeling that if I wanted to, and if something happened, I could have taken control of the vehicle. If I wanted to impose my will and just get back into my body and be in the driver's seat again. I felt like I could have probably very easily booted him out and wrestled that control back. But I just relaxed and relinquished the control and he was just kind of moving. I remember him like moving my wrists and my hands, and this went on for a few seconds, like, I don't know, maybe a minute or two. He's like, okay, yeah, he's like, well, this is just wild. He's just like, okay, this is super cool. And we settle into the experience a little bit. And I started to get this feeling like my body started to kind of shift and fidget a little bit. And he was kind of curious. And he asked me this question. And the sense that I got was almost of irritation or confusion. And he's like, what is this? Like, does this body always feel like this? And I realized, well, at that point in my life, I was doing a lot of Bikram style hot yoga. I was in the studio 4, 5, 6 days a week sometimes, taking really intense hot yoga classes. I was very dedicated to my yoga practice at that period of time. It was basically my lifestyle outside of work. And I realized I was sore. When you're doing that much hot yoga, it's natural, and everybody gets sore. Everybody is sore when you're doing that much hot yoga to some extent. Yes, your body feels great from the exercise, and when you push yourself that hard, it's going to have an impact on your physical body. What he was sensing was the amount of soreness in my body from the intense exercise I had been doing. And I realized that because he was curious, like, what is this signal coming from, this discomfort? And I had to explain to him. I said, well, this is a vehicle. Some vehicles are meant for high performance. And in order to get the human vehicle to perform at a high level, you have to train it and you have to push it and you have to really work it in a certain specific kind of a way if you want to achieve a high level of performance with this meat vehicle. And he understood. He's like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. The next sensation that I got was like, okay, cool. I don't like that. Like, no, thank you. This soreness and the fact that you have to deal with this discomfort and this heaviness, and you can't get away from this physical pain, like, that's not for me. No, thank you. And his communication to me was, thank you for allowing me to have this experience. And this has been really enlightening, and I'm done. I don't want to continue with this anymore. I think I got as much as I can get from this, as much as I want to get from this. I'm going to bow out and take myself out of your physical space. And just like that, in the same way that he came in, I felt his energy shift out, and I resumed control over my physical vehicle. And here's where things get really interesting. Because shortly after he leaves my body, we're still in the same proximal space. We still have the direct line of communication open. He asked me another question. He says, do you remember the last time you were here when we had our first interaction and encounter? I was like, yeah. He goes, well, later on in that evening, I observed you having an experience, and I want to have that experience too. I said, oh, okay, what exactly are you talking about? And he shared with me a mental image and an observation that he had made of myself and my partner at the time being intimate. He shared that he could sense the amount of energy that was generated in that experience and in that interaction, and he was really captivated by it, and he wanted to know if he could have that experience for himself. Basically, he was asking if he could inhabit my body, take control of my body during an intimate encounter with my significant other. It took me a little bit to process this because I was totally not expecting it. And the energy that I got from him was just energy of curiosity. He's like, well, and I can see where he's coming from. He's like, well, if you let me take over control of your vehicle for a short period of time, just hanging out, why wouldn't you let me take control of your body when you're having that experience as well? It was very innocent. He's like, well, if you're open to that, would you be open to this as well? And yeah, it took me a little bit to process that. And my reaction was, and I had to explain this to him. I was like, that sort of level of intimacy is not something that I am comfortable sharing. And if that were to happen, which for me, I don't want to go there. Like, you're cool, but we're not that cool, sort of a thing. For something like that to have to take place, it would require consent from myself, which is a no, and my partner, which I'm assuming is going to be a no also. So I really don't foresee this happening. I'm not comfortable with this. I like that sort of a space. I want to maintain and keep that private. And because it's just a really special and intimate sort of relationship that we have and a bond. And yes, I could just sense he was really intrigued by the amount of energy that experience generated, and he wanted to experience that. So on one hand, I understood where he was coming from. And on the other hand, I was like, yeah, no, that's a boundary that I'm going to have to establish and maintain. And, we're just not going to go there. Sorry, dude. And when I explained it to him, he seemed to understand and really take it well. He's like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like, I'm not trying to impose, or I'm not trying to, again, take anything or be weird. I just genuinely, I could tell that he was captivated and really curious about that experience. And shortly after that brief dialogue, we parted ways. He's like, okay, well, thank you. It's been a pleasure connecting with you. Thank you for the experience. I felt feelings of gratitude and joy and kind of odd sense of camaraderie, like we're working together or have this kind of unique bond. And he's like, yeah, thank you. Cool. Take care, be well, enjoy the rest of your journey. And with that, he kind of faded off into the distance and moved off towards the direction of the mountains again. I'm not entirely sure how long that interaction was from beginning to end. I mean, it couldn't have been more than half an hour to an hour. I really don't know. Time gets really slippery when you're taking 5 or more grams of mushrooms. And having that interaction on that dose of mushrooms, I mean, yeah, it was a very profound experience, to say the least. But that's not exactly where the story ends, because shortly after he left, I'm laying there, still in my medicine journey, having my experience, really trying to integrate what just happened and trying to make sense of the fact that an extraterrestrial had taken over my body. It was, just sitting with that, contemplating, and I hear footsteps coming up from outside of my tent, and my partner at the time came up to the tent and asked me, hey, are you in there? Are you okay? Is it okay for me to come in? I said, oh yeah, come on in. Open up the tent. She squatted down and was about to get in the tent and stopped. She looked at me and she looked around, and I said, yeah, just come on in the tent. And I just had an experience. I'll explain it to you. I don't know exactly what to make of this. So she got in the tent, and I proceed to tell her exactly what just happened. And her response was, oh my gosh. She said, it did not feel like you. I didn't recognize you. It felt like somebody else. I was so confused when I came up to the tent. That was really strange. It makes sense now why it felt like you weren't you on an energetic level. My guess is that there might have been some energetic residue, or the fact that he'd spent so much time in my space interfered with, or not interfered with, but impacted my energy. So it was really interesting to have that reflected back to me and have confirmation from her that, that something really strange energetically was going on with me and in my space. Since then, I haven't been back to that place. Not for lack of want or desire, because it's a really incredible place. It just never really worked out. I don't find myself in Southern California at the right time, at the right place, with a bag of mushrooms all that often. It's been several years since this experience had taken place. I have not had any further interactions with Atom, and I've really never had another extraterrestrial experience quite like that since or before. This was a very unique and impactful experience on me. It really helped open my mind to a whole host of new ideas and possibilities when it comes to what's possible with consciousness and what the body really is and what function it serves. I still love my body, and I still do the best that I can to take care of it. And I also recognize that it is just a vehicle. The mushroom experience that I had in the desert there, the fact that an extraterrestrial came into my body was unique. But the fact that my consciousness has been able to shift positions or even transfer out of my body is not a new experience, especially when you're taking high doses of mushrooms and other plant medicines. In those states, you can really start to explore and find new possibilities and kind of push the limits of your consciousness, seeing what it can do, where you can go, what you can learn, who you can interact with. Yeah, this experience was unique, but it by far was not the only experience I've had with extraterrestrials. I've had many encounters with extraterrestrials, and it's something that's begun to happen more frequently, especially as I explore consciousness and the boundaries of reality as I know it. Extraterrestrial contact doesn't necessarily mean getting beamed up to the mothership or being abducted. It can mean something like what I just described, or something closer to that where you're directly communicating telepathically or energetically with an extraterrestrial. In that context, you're fairly close and the relationship and the communication is a bit more intimate. There's also situations and things like the E5 meditation, different meditations, different techniques, astral projection. There's many different ways to open yourself up to connect with and communicate with extraterrestrial, non-human intelligences. It's something that anyone can do. And I personally believe that when the extraterrestrial disclosure comes, it's not going to be from the government or major news outlets because nobody trusts those sources. When a major disclosure happens, it's going to be a ground-up, grassroots sort of a situation. People in your community, people that you may know, your neighbor. There are a lot of people, and more so, having these sorts of interactions and experiences. So you're at some point going to know somebody, if you haven't had a personal experience yourself, that has had personal experiences with extraterrestrials in one form or another. We don't have to wait for the government to tell us that they're here to know that they're here and have experiences with them. The key to being able to connect with an extraterrestrial or have one of these sorts of experiences is coming from a place of openness and love and compassion. Love is a key that opens many doors. And when you are open in that way and have the intention of wanting to connect, coming from a place of genuine curiosity and desire to share experiences and get to know somebody else, you're going to have an experience at some point or another, especially if you try one of these techniques or put yourself in situations where that's more likely to happen. It's just like if you want to meet people, you go to the grocery store, if you intend on being friendly and smiling at people and starting conversations, you're going to meet people and you're going to make friends that might not have happened before. It's this very similar sort of intention that goes into meeting extraterrestrials. It's really not that hard, but it does require some mindset shifts on the part of the person who's making contact. You have to be in the right mental space and open to receive information and contact and messages. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that everybody do what I did. I have a deeply held personal belief that God is not going to put me in a situation that I can't handle. I just trust that any situation I find myself in, if I follow my intuition, it's going to lead me to learning lessons and having the experience that I'm supposed to have. Having this sort of approach to life has led me down some funky paths. I've had a lot of amazing experiences. I've had some really challenging experiences. And I'm grateful for all the experiences that I've had because they've taught me a lot. And that's exactly why I made this video about discernment. Because when you start to open yourself up to receive information and messages from external sources, it is really important to know if that information is coming from an authentic place of truth and love, or if it's coming from a manipulative, lower vibrational source. I put a lot of information in this so that you don't have to go through the same challenges and learn the same lessons that I had to. So we'll see you there.